5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Incoming!
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Omnic Lab. We're a podcast that focuses on the games in the game of Overwatch. This is episode number 16. We're going deep. We're talking Lucio. We're going to go through trial and error in the lab, in the nice air conditioning on a hot summer day here in July, even if things get a bit crazy and mess up. And if they do, they will blow up, and they will blow up gloriously. We'll brew you up some composition strategies. We're going to talk about some Lucio tips to help you play a little bit better with him, and maybe equip you as a listener with some of the instruments that you need to get that strategic edge. And we'll go over some patch notes. I'm your host, Rob May, and joining me as always is our Georgia boy, Andres Gomez. What's up?
What's up, Rob? You keep calling me Georgia boy, and people are gonna think that I'm actually from Georgia.
I just keep saying
I live in
so
Georgia.
Somebody's first time listening, they're gonna be like, he doesn't sound like he's from Georgia.
Yeah, like where's his southern accent? Where's this imposter doing over here?
Yeah, it's such a great conversation starter. You have to just introduce yourself as the Georgia boy, and you're like, you don't sound like you're from Georgia.
Yeah.
It's like your pickup line.
It's good to be here, though. I've been playing a ton more Overwatch this week, especially since the patch came out. And it's been pretty exciting. I love the new changes to competitive. It actually feels a lot more solid right now. I'm not like hitting my head against the desk every time I finish a game. Definitely not any of that stuff about losing ranking and like leaving players. A lot of that stuff has been fixed a little bit. Still not perfect, but at least it's a lot more enjoyable now. And I've been able to actually climb this week, which has been pretty exciting.
That's great. I know that I had been playing the day before all of the changes launched, and I finally started climbing. I played 4 total games, which were all very long. 2 out of the 4 games, went to the final round. And
King
the
of the
other
Hill?
ones, yeah, they were both King of the Hill matches.
Oh yeah, when they go to the 5th round, sometimes they feel like they take forever. Especially, the
Oh,
overtime
man.
doesn't feel as long now. Like it actually ends like rather quickly in
Yeah.
overtime now. But before that, like games would sometimes last like 40 minutes. So I feel you there.
Yeah, so that's why they took so long, and why it's like I only got 4 in. It's like, well, in reality, 4 is like 4 matches of 3 to 5 games. Is pretty nuts. But we were pretty close on the payload maps, and the one payload map that we ended up losing, we just didn't play very well. I mean, it's kind of sad to say that we just didn't play well, and I think we didn't really address what was happening very well.
I don't think it's sad to say that. I think it honestly is the best way to improve when actually you look back in your games and you tell yourself, you know, we didn't play that well, and you realize that. I feel like that's a movement of improvement.
Yeah, it's sad that when you play with people, sometimes they'll take that as in your group as being like a defeatist mentality, when in reality it's like, guys, we can't just ignore that we didn't play good. Like we played terrible. Like it's okay to admit that. It's not okay to have that as like defeatist mentality, and it's also not to be like critical like that day in and day out. But I think that it's a mark of maturity to kind of see your
I
gameplay
agree.
and
I
such.
mean, mainly with it is like if you realize that you're not playing that well, it's not about just bashing yourself and being like, oh, I'm terrible about it. But it's more about realizing that you're not playing the best that you can, and then kind of trying to pinpoint what is it, right? Like what is it that you're doing wrong? Not just bashing yourself and telling yourself, oh, I just can't do it. I suck at this game. But more like, where is it that I'm playing bad? Like, am I overcommitting over here, or am I playing too aggressively? Am I playing too in the back line? Am I targeting the right kind of hero? It's kind of like that critical analysis of your game.
Yeah, but I say that to basically like transition into saying that I finally climbed. I'm back up at 47 or 48 now, which is like 3 ranks below what I was initially, which is really good because most of my climbing was really held back by levers
Mm-hmm.
and I kept losing games because of levers on my team and stuff like that.
Honestly, that first month of the season was rough, man. I feel you.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was really cool because I definitely noticed on 2 of the games, Andres, that like there were key points in game 2 or after game 1 or like mid game 1 where you make that adjustment and you're like, okay, we need a Pharah so that our Mercy can get off the ground, or we need our Reinhardt to switch to a Winston just to go, or a Diva to go sit on the back line, something like that on defense on payload. And it's like, as soon as we made those decisions, like you don't even have to play that well. It's just the nature of saying I'm doing this in order to beat this. It worked. And it was so good. And this is all before Diva's changes went live, which we'll discuss again. But it felt really good to finally like advance and not have like a full squad of like highly top tier players, just like average players at my level playing together, making those adjustments, being a team. It was a good feeling.
Nice, but you're right. Sometimes you don't have to be the best player, but when you make the right adjustments, suddenly you change the flow of battle. And even though it seems like you were losing like abysmally, then suddenly it feels like your team got like way stronger. And you realize it's because you swapped that hero that was constantly dying, and now the hero that they swapped to is actually making a meaningful contribution, and it feels a lot like a whole different battle. Totally agree with that.
Well, let's get into the patch notes. We're not going to discuss too much of the patch notes with Andres and I today, just because most of them are just moving from the really long PTR we discussed over to live. And the reason that we talk about PTR in depth is that even though some of the changes may swap, even while we're podcasting, that means that we can dial back when the patch goes live. We can tell you just the things that went live, and that we don't have to just explain what the impacts of those things are going to be when they do hit the real servers.
Yeah, and we pretty much discussed all of these changes last episode. Most of them pretty much stayed like they were in the PTR, except for a couple, and most of it has been the experience of playing it with the live servers. Some of the heroes feel a lot different.
Yep. So let's jump into it. So we have the key moment that we noticed in the pre-show is that the PS4 patch notes on July 21st, as we're recording the show, just launched from what they launched on PC on July 19th. Okay. So that means that on PlayStation 4 and on PSN network, you will have these exact changes. Before we actually we'll go back and talk about some PS4 issues that just went live a couple days ago in the forums. But first, Andres, there's not really any big surprises here. Competitive mode, 1 hero limit, Anna's playable, ultimate cost adjusted, Diva's defense matrix change, McCree changes, Mercy ultimate changes. The damage boost is still 30% for her. The mobility.
It went back. We said that last episode though, right? While we were recording.
Happened live while we were recording.
Yeah, it went back to 30% instead of the 50.
Then we have her ultimate is able to be cast while moving and resets the Guardian Angel. Soldiers spray on his main fire is enabled just like PTR as Zenyatta. His ultimate and his orbs travel distance and his health are all updated, matching PTR. And then there's all of those miscellaneous bug fixes, social feature changes, miscellaneous game options, and my favorite change, the hitboxes have been updated.
You were testing this a little bit earlier, right?
I was testing this was the day they came out. I jumped in with my boy Jana, and Jana and I hopped into a quick custom game. And the only thing that didn't feel that different was Roadhog's hook hitbox. The hook still is pretty oppressive, but we kind of deemed it like better, but it's not like this. It's not the same, but it's better than what it was. Like he's still going to be able to hook you behind corners and stuff, but it has to do with the accuracy of the outer ring on the reticle if you have the default one enabled.
Mm-hmm.
So that worked really well. There is one change that we didn't cover that has to do with Zenyatta's primary fire and his alternate fire. Andres, do you want to cover that real quick?
Sure. What change exactly are you looking for? Oh,
it's the damage, yeah.
Over here, it got reduced, right? from
Yeah.
40% to, or it got updated from 40 to 45, and then the alternate fire decreased from 40 to 35.
No. That's what you're inverting it.
Oh, okay. Now they're both 40 rather than 45
Yeah.
and 35. Okay, now they're both the same. You can see how much I play Zenyatta.
Yeah. So I
Um,
guess they changed this because the damage boost and the health was just a little too much, and they wanted to slightly undertune him because it felt still pretty good. That's my guess.
yeah, I don't know. It feels like they were trying to, in the past, to make the alternate fire kind of reduce a little bit of the damage just because maybe they thought it was gonna be too strong. But most people don't even use the alternate fire, only in very specific situations. So it's time to see it get bumped up a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that the alternate fire doesn't score headshots, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. I should have pulled Shockmaster like about 10 minutes ago, but I forgot to ask him if those score headshots or not. But yeah, so all these changes are live. Guys, go play double, maybe even triple support with Ana and Zen. They are so good right now. How much Ana have you gotten a chance to play this last 24 hours, Andres? I know you said you were playing a
Me
lot today.
personally, I haven't played much Anna myself, but I have played against Anna quite a bit. And I
Mhm.
can say that the players who are still getting the hang of it, it feels super underwhelming and it almost feels like a 5 versus 6,
Yeah.
very lacking. But the players that really know how to use her toolset, especially her ultimate, the nano boost, that thing is insane. Especially if Anna is
Mm.
coordinating with a person that you're doing the nano boost to, and the person who's getting nano boosted is good. Oh my God, that thing is scary. I had like
That on a
right.
diva is devastating.
Yeah, Diva's good. Winston is amazing with it too. Pretty
Hmm.
much is like having double
All the
Winston, but
tanks.
into one. You just need one
Yeah.
Winston. Yeah, Reinhardt is really good. You know who is insane with a boost too?
Genji.
Reaper. Genji can
Oh,
be, but Reaper. Oh my God, we had a Reaper
holy
yesterday
cow. Just
that
melt
just
people.
kept. Yeah, we were running double tank, and we had to like swap to counter this Reaper because Anna was just
Oh, I need to
exclusively
try this.
nano boosting him, and it was insane. Just Reaper running around like crazy, like
Like
two-shotting
one
everyone.
shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez,
Yeah,
that
that was
sounds
pretty cool.
brutal.
So
Have you been
Anna
playing your
feels really
boy
strong.
McCree?
Yes, I've been playing a ton of McCree. I was gonna say if you wanted to talk a little
I
bit
was
about how the heroes feel right now. McCree feels amazing. That left click feels so good right now,
oh,
especially from a distance. You can headshot people from really far away, so feels
yeah.
like McCree will be back. It's not gonna be like only soldier for that like mid-range kind of like sustained damage. McCree is definitely back, and he counters a lot of guys nicely, right? Like if you're a good McCree, you can still take down
Hmm.
Tracers and Genjis.
Farah.
Pharahs now are really a lot easier to take down. It's not like super
You're
easy,
also
but a
able to
lot
duel
easier.
those Zenyatas now that they're going to be coming back out. Like, you're going
Yeah.
toe-to-toe against Zens
Yeah, and I
quite a
love that
bit.
he's back. Like with your left click, especially if you start getting the hang of the aim, like you can get a lot of picks from him from a medium range
Hmm.
now.
Oh,
So
yeah.
definitely
It's a
loving
lot of
McCree.
damage.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage. He hits hard. You can still you can finally engage Roadhogs again because
Yeah, the headshots.
with the nerf if you were staying at the proper range so you wouldn't get hooked, you would just not do enough damage to them. They could just
Just be
out heal
tickling
you.
him.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you were getting the headshots, it would take so long. And I think that was kind of why Roadhog was kind of running amok so much. But now
Yeah.
that Diva and McCree are back to being a thing, you've been seeing Roadhog played a little less, just because he again he's a really big target. And now that you can fire
Yeah.
from him from a distance as McCree, oh man, it feels great getting those headshots on that
Yeah,
fat little
I
belly.
bet. I will say you this: McCree has a lot of kickback on the just the graphical animation of when he fires his gun. You know what I mean? Like that, it almost is like a Desert Eagle kickback when you
Yeah,
fire the gun,
yeah,
and
it's
it's
very
like
satisfying.
finally, it actually feels like I'm shooting a lot of damage out of this pistol.
Yes, yes. Now the recoil matches the damage.
Yeah, exactly. But
Aside from that,
it's cool.
Diva is freaking insane right now.
I played her on the PTR significantly, and she felt super busted to me. Like, not busted in like she's totally broken, please fix. Like, no, she felt busted in like finally I can play Diva and not feel like people are gonna rage at me.
Yeah, no,
You
she
know?
is absolutely good right now. And the thing is, her damage is still the same, so she's not like insane from that standpoint. But I
Mm.
think her defense matrix, that change that they made to it, made a world of difference.
Her
Like she,
survivability is nuts right
and not
now.
only that, like she can eat up so many things. Like as a McCree player,
Yep.
I'm scared of divas. Like divas
Yeah.
are a hard counter to McCree, no kidding, because they can fly up to you, catch up. You don't have a way to like get away from them, and
Hmm.
even though you still hit them really hard, you can get your headshots on them. If the diva closes in on you, especially with the defense matrix up, there's almost nothing you can
There's
do.
nothing.
And once she's up, like in your face, like as McCree, you kind of like panic a little bit because she hits
Yeah.
relatively hard, and you don't have that much health and no way to like outspeed her, you know what I mean?
And she can boot people off with her jetpack, you know,
Yeah, and then like
fly in, fly out.
Deadeye. Deadeye is such a liability when the enemy team has a diva,
Just
because as
fly
soon
up
as you
to
do
you and use
diva,
it.
yeah, she just does defense matrix and literally eats all of your hits, even for like their
Oh
teammates
my
and stuff.
gosh.
She's just like pointing the defense matrix at you, she'll eat everything. Same with like Pharah ults and pretty much any ult in the game.
Anything.
Now
Yeah.
that you have it
She can
on
even
the,
get Zarya's ult.
yeah,
And
and
I
like,
did that on the PTR and it felt so
oh my
good.
God. As a Zarya, that's probably like one of the worst feelings you can get.
Just like, no.
And what I was gonna say is like now they have it pretty much on demand whenever they want to. Even if
Yeah.
it's just for like 1 second,
1 second.
they'll probably have it. And like if they time it right,
Ooh.
they're good. You're
It's just like a
blocking
Genji
everything.
using deflect now. It's like, but it's always up.
Yeah, it's
It's
always
insane.
up. It's really insane, and it's really annoying. Same with Roadhog ults. Like, I was getting all of my ults eaten by Diva last night, and I was like, "Oh, damn you, Diva!" Because the damage
So
just
speaking,
disappears.
yeah, speaking of like the damage disappearing and like all of the buffs that we've been seeing, like Zen, McCree, even like the Ana like being introduced, and then Diva basically countering a lot of stuff. I'm really interested as to like one thing that I found out this week, that it seems like all of these changes, including the Ana rollout, are all geared towards dealing with Pharah. Like
Interesting.
Pharah is like essentially, like, I'm not saying she's an eliminated like presence, and you could argue some of the stuff that Pharah does is essentially what Junkrat does, just a little bit more zone centric, but like people have problems dealing with Pharah because they're always in the air. They're super hard to hit. If you play, like, if somebody's playing Pharah, the only thing you choose is either another healer, a sniper, or you pick soldier. And now it's like, okay, if you have a problem with Pharah, you can play Diva and you can eliminate it. You can play McCree and the damage fall off will let you pick her off in 2 shots. Or, you have Ana. Now you have a sniper that can also heal your team and destroy that Pharah that's flying around like crazy.
I
So,
agree. I don't know if they were
really,
specifically targeting Pharah, although Pharah was becoming one of the strongest like
auto pick
flankers and kind of like
attackers.
how do you say that, like pickers, like a hero that you pick to get kills on the enemy team. Just because you're able to flank from any position
An
with her
assassin,
flying,
maybe.
you're also able to get into like weird corners and you have infinite range with your missiles. You can pick off like Senatas, you can pick off Torbjorns, you can pick off Symmetras, anything like that with Pharah. And like in the pro scene, Pharah sees a lot of play because of this. So I don't know if they're specifically targeting her, but I think you're right. Like all these
But
changes
it definitely impacts
do,
her the most, is
yeah,
what I was really
absolutely.
getting
Just
at. Yeah.
because all these heroes do have an advantage on her now that the changes are here.
Yeah. So that's kind of the one highlight that I really thought that I can't remember who to give credit for, guys. I've been watching so much stuff from like Overwatch Central Crew and Cynical Nerds. Those guys are always producing good content on YouTube that I'm checking out,
Hmm.
along with some of the casters and pros. But I really agree with whoever it was that said that on the video I was watching. I was like, yeah, Pharah is probably the one that gets hit the most with a lot of this stuff. However, it's important to know that all of these changes, especially with, actually, I think all of the changes in general are enabling players higher skill cap heroes and or mechanically skill rewarding heroes that you have to play in order to take down Pharah. For example, like the ones that we talked about, Anna, Zen, Diva, and McCree are all very mechanical in your aiming. Like, if you can't aim, you struggle hitting and landing those headshots or your actual shots on Farah, she's still going to reign supreme over your team. Like, that's just what she's going to do because she doesn't have that precision limitation because she has the splash damage.
Yeah, I agree
so
with that.
Just keep that in mind.
Definitely. And I think finally we can maybe touch Zenyatta a little bit because he feels really strong as well. He no longer gets one shot by a direct hit from Farah, so there you go, another like slight Farah nerf. And then his orbs seem so strong right now that they're pretty much instant once you target a hero. I've been playing a ton of competitive, and I've been seeing a lot of Zenyatta being played, and now people don't freak out when when people pick Zenyatta because he's actually quite good. His Discord orb helps you melt Roadhogs as well as Saryas that can be so freaking hard to kill sometimes.
I feel like you can finally keep them under control now with Zen.
Yeah, absolutely. And then having your healing orb on some of your own heroes, like there's nothing worse than seeing a Reaper with a healing orb or a Farah like flying above you with a healing orb. It's like, oh my god, they're so hard to kill.
Or worse, a good Genji with a healing orb.
Oh my god, yeah,
disgusting.
Any of the heroes that benefit from being a while, kind of like in the heat of battle, like Genji, Tracer, Reaper, that sort of thing, have to be kind of up close, but are kind of vulnerable and just have tools to evade. Like the orb works so well on them. Mei, oh my god, there's nothing more annoying than having a Mei with the orb and just chasing you behind, because all of them are already so hard to hit, and the orb just keeps healing them constantly.
It's so funny to see them go into cryo, like their cryo freeze. And then, like, you see the little orb kind of, like, laser beaming through it until, like, the line of sight gets broken by the, by the cryo freeze, and then it kind of dissipates. I'm just like, why are you healing? There's an orb sitting right above you. It's really funny. But last little bit of news here is there is an update on the, what they call progress loss on PS4 update from Lyra on the Overwatch forums for PlayStation. So I'll just read the post. It's really short. She says, he or she says, I don't know who it is. Last week, we uncovered a bug that was caused a small number of account profiles on PS4 to be corrupted, affecting your player settings, level stat, credits, competitive points, and your skill rating. While the source of the issue is quickly identified and corrected, it took us a bit longer to develop a process to recover that corrupted data. And as of today, however, we've completed a restoration of credits, levels, competitive points on those accounts that were impacted. Skill ratings are a little bit more difficult and cannot be repaired in the same manner. Unlike levels and currency, your skill rating is a dynamic piece of data. As you play, the rating continuously gets updated. The nature of this bug makes it difficult for you to establish an exact point of failure. So rather than risking an incorrectly restored skill rating, the matchmaking system will use the player data that's been collected since the failure to calibrate your new rating. Anyone who has not played since their account was affected will simply need to just replay their replacement matches. This will give the matchmaking system the information it needs to pair you with similarly skilled players. Side note, items unlocked from loot boxes that were not actually impacted by this bug. We received some reports that some players are currently unable to see them in their hero gallery, so we're still working on a patch for that to correct it. We can't guarantee that we've been able to restore everything that is missing, but we've done our best to get back as much as possible using the tools we have available. Moving forward, we're taking steps to improve our restoration process as well as reduce the chances for the issues like this to happen again. We sincerely apologize for any frustration this issue has caused for you in the meantime, and thank you so much for your patience as we work to resolve it. Very good, well-written, thought-out response, and I feel like this needed to be addressed because we don't cover enough stuff for our console people, and I had gotten reports like 2 weeks ago about that issue from one of our listeners. So yay, restoration.
Cool, at least that's in the way. Seems like a little hiccup they had over there. Nothing too major. It's probably like just annoying for the players that are gonna have to replay the plays-in matches, but
at least it's accurate. Yeah,
at least they didn't lose their actual loot boxes and progress and stuff.
Yep. So let's take a brief moment to thank our scientist level patrons and let you guys know how you can support the show with Patreon. Andres?
let's do it. We want to thank Brian K, Eric S, and Blackbird. Again, thanks for your generous pledges at the scientist level of support. You guys are super, super awesome. Again, the perks are on the way once the payment clears, and we are super grateful for it. This really helps the show, and hopefully there's a lot more upgrades coming along the way. Like we mentioned before, we were able to pay for all of our initial investment for the show, thanks to you guys and your donations last month. Rob now has a new PC, so he is rocking it over there.
Awesome, guys. And I got a new mouse, which is
And
a
a
Zowie
new mouse.
EC2A.
Not all of it with the podcast money. Obviously, we don't
No.
we don't make that much yet to be affording all these things. But thanks to you guys, it helps us kind of like keep it going and that sort of thing. And hopefully we can upgrade our audio equipment coming up. Hopefully we can get a new mic for myself and some other goodies to bring you guys the best audio quality possible. And
hopefully next month we'll start getting a little bit more of those investments starting to parse them out. And yeah, if you want to support us, you go to patreon.com/OmnicLab, and you can just leave us a monthly tip there. I know in the future, Andres and I are talking about it when it does roll out. Maybe we'll do this, but where you can just basically the day you pledge is the day that you send in the money, and then it just stays that same day of the month every month. And we'll maybe test that out. I don't know yet. We'll see. That way you can just pledge and get your rewards right away. Yeah, we got some cool stuff. Andres, did you want to take a quick minute to just talk through what we're going to do with our scientist level patrons here moving forward once I get into Japan?
Sure. Right now we're kind of in a transitional period, waiting for Rob to get organized and settle over there. But for scientist level patrons, we have, for those of them who want to, some of them just want to donate and don't want to be a part of it, but a lot of them are interested in this. We're trying to do a patron episode for the scientist level patrons that are interested in this thing. Where we do a mini episode, probably off air. I'll edit it really nicely and release it, where we can talk with the patrons about the topics that they want regarding Overwatch. I mean, we can talk a little bit about console or lore, or we can talk about certain playstyle mechanics, getting into competitive mode, whatever it is they want to talk to, and give them a little taste of what it is being in the podcast, and hopefully open the avenue for them to network a little bit. So that's kind of what we're working on with the scientist level patrons. So if this sounds like something you might be interested in checking out, you can head over to patreon.com/OmnicLab and find out more about it over there.
Without further ado, let's get into our main topic, going deep on Lucio. Let's turn it up. Okay, Andres, you wrote so much stuff on this, and I've played so little of Lucio, but I will say this, I played him twice this week and really enjoyed it. Booping people off the edge on full sky is pretty darn fun.
Lucio can be a really fun hero to play. Even sometimes supports get a bad rep for being a little more boring and not as action packed as some of the other heroes, but they have done a fantastic job of making Lucio feel like a fun character that is versatile, can do a lot of things, and you can still get a lot of kills and a lot of fun kills, like you said, with the boops and stuff. So it's definitely a fun character to play. But yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty of Lucio. So rather than going through everything Lucio is and giving you hard numbers and stuff, because all that stuff is very easy to find if you honestly just Google it. It will be the first thing that appears. But today we wanted to talk a little more about who is Lucio and why you want to pick him, how you want to play him, what role he really fills in the team, and the mindset that you should have when you pick this hero, or why your team might want you to pick this hero. So let's start with a little overview. The best way to describe Lucio is as a multi-target healer that is the centerpiece to your team initiation. So Lucio is really good at keeping your whole team healed. He provides raid-wide healing, and also he is a great initiation tool for your team as he provides that speed boost that allows you to close the gap between the enemies and you pretty much on demand. So let's talk about his main
centerpiece ability.
His centerpiece ability called Crossfade. Crossfade is your shift ability and basically switches between two of your songs, one healing and one speed. Some relevant numbers here for Crossfade healing. It gives 12.5 healing or health per second to people who are around you in line of sight and up to 30 meters away from you. So it does have a range. If people get outside from 30 meters away from you, they won't get the heal. And also, if line of sight is broken by a wall or a box or prop in the stage, the healing will stop as well. So it's something to keep in mind. When you crossfade to your other song that gives you speed, it gives a flat 30% movement speed for everyone in the same 30-meter radius, and it's also cancelled by line of sight. So this is basically Lucio's main ability and why you want to bring him into the team. Let's talk about a little bit about what this implies for Lucio, because the way that this ability works basically forces you to play Lucio in a very specific style. Given the fact that you have a limited radius and it's also basically team-wide, you want to play Lucio not in the sideline, not way ahead, but basically in the middle of your team, where you have the best chance of grabbing as many allies as you can and affecting them with your song. As well as trying to be in a place where line of sight is not necessarily impeding you. A lot of the heroes move all over the place, especially the flankers, but knowing that Lucio is in the middle can kind of give kind of like your team kind of like a center position, a center of gravity, if you may, so that the team can move around that. And whenever they need
it's kind of like the nucleus of the team. Like you want to center your
Yes.
team around him. You have the tanks in front and the back line behind, and then you have your flankers out in where the electrons would be. But your nucleus should be made up of Lucio and your tank.
That's
kind
a
of like
very
the
good
proton
way
the
to
neutron.
put it. Yes, Lucio is the nucleus of the team, right up in the center.
I'll also interject here just to go back off of Andres's numbers. It's very interesting that the constant heal in an area at being only 12.5 health per second is significant, especially on payload, when payloads are able to give you also a area of effect heal when you're on offense, and it can be boosted, which we'll get to, but Mercy's heal is 50 per second, but it's single target, and Zenyatta's is 30 per second, but also limited by line of sight, single target. So essentially, it's like little under half of what Zen can do, and right around a quarter of what Mercy can do. So just keep that in mind without having the boost, amp it up ability. Lucio's still providing a good utility for your team when he's not doing that.
Yeah, CrossFit is really great, especially for that like cannon fodder or like bullet fodder spam that comes all over the place.
It's like the spray.
Yeah, exactly. Where all of your team is kind of getting hit, not necessarily like by really high amounts of damage, but just kind of like spam. Lucio's really good at kind of like bringing your team back from that like at a constant rate, right? You keep your team healing like that. Really great. Going back to playing him in the middle. Playing him in the middle has its advantages and disadvantages, and this is where as a Lucio player you really want to start learning the character. Once you know okay, I'm supposed to play in the middle, it comes with a new set of responsibilities. Basically, this is where I like calling it the Matrix training. As Lucio, you basically want to become Neo from the Matrix. You need
Except you can't download the skill.
no, you can, unfortunately you cannot download the skill into your brain and learn it. You have to actually practice it. But you're going for that. You are a bullet dodger as Lucio. You cannot, unlike May, you cannot create walls on top of yourself or become crystallized. You cannot fly away like Mercy. Your health doesn't regenerate unless you're like using the health song, and you don't have like a lot of health to start. Your model is small, so it kind of allows you to dodge a lot of bullets in that sense. But aside from that, rather vulnerable when you're kind of like in the middle of everything, and you're also gonna be a prime target for the enemy. Lucio is a hero that can keep your team in the fight for a very long time, and because of this, your enemy is gonna be looking to take you out as fast as possible so that they can get a great advantage on your team. Knowing this, you have basically three main tools to keep you alive in the middle of the fray. You have your wall ride that makes you super, super mobile, and once you master that wall ride, you can actually become almost like a semi Genji. Like really good Lucios can get up into the weirdest places, and once you look up, you're like,
Like
how
on the
the
top of
hell
a
did that
statue in
Lucio get
King's
up there?
Row.
Yeah,
Hmm.
casually called Spider Lucios. Wallride can yeah. Wallride can really give you an edge on like dodging the bullets, especially once you start thinking about aiming. Vertical aiming is one of the hardest things to learn in Overwatch. Like a lot of people start getting good at horizontal aiming where they don't have to move their crossfade vertically, but just from left to right and scan that way. Once you start having to scan up and right, especially like far distances up where you have to like take your vision away from the ground at all, that becomes really hard. And especially at the lower ranking levels, if you're able to master this wall ride, you're gonna become a really, really hard target to hit.
It's
Another,
super hard to do this on consoles, from what I've heard over and over again. Like Spider Lucio is extremely difficult for those console players.
yeah, I've seen that, and it's mainly because you're turning your head with the right joystick, but then you also have to
Mhm.
jump with X. So you're kind of
Yeah,
sharing the turning and the jumping with the same finger.
yeah.
And I don't think
You
that
almost
works
need to
that
like
well.
switch it to the right thumbstick clicking is
Well,
probably a good way
what
to do
what
it
I've
if you want to
heard
do it that way.
console players do is they switch their jump into one of the triggers, either the left or the right trigger.
Uh-huh.
So that way they can
You
jump
just hold it.
with a different finger while they're still like scanning around,
Huh.
and that makes it a lot easier. I've heard that is the only way
I would
you
just
can
swap the melee.
effectively wall ride with Lucio on the console. But it's a thing to keep in mind because honestly,
Yeah.
it takes your Lucio play to the next level if you can do this effectively.
Right. I would agree with that.
Moving on, another great tool to maybe create some space between you and flankers like Tracer, Reaper, or Genjis that are kind of like on top of you, Divas, or any tank that kind of like closes in on you. Your sound wave, your left or your right click as Lucio,
Alternate
boops
fire.
anyone away, and it's actually a pretty decent distance that it moves them away. So it's a great way to create a gap between you and any of the attackers and kind of keep him at bay if you find yourself in a precarious situation. And then it's also a great way to knock people off the map, as anyone who has played Overwatch has probably realized by now, because they've either experienced them themselves or they've
Or
done
they
it to
spent
some
five
other
minutes
people.
on Reddit.
Oh yeah.
It's booping highlights everywhere on Reddit.
And then the last thing I was gonna say, one thing that really good Lucios learn to master is switching between their healing song and their speed song as needed. Lucio can become really, really mobile when you switch to your speed, especially if you use your amped up, and you can get away from any place really fast, or you can get to a place really fast with this song. And the mark of a really good Lucio is when you see them constantly changing between songs at the appropriate times. Just because they know that they don't need to be healing all the time, right? There will be a point where your team is healthy enough that it's safe to switch into your speed song and maybe become a little more
Mhm.
aggressive. Like some people say,
Or when you use your ultimate and you want to engage.
yeah, or you can use your ultimate to pad and then use your song. But basically, it gives you a ton of mobility and can allow you to run away, close the gap, or help your teammates close the gap. So learning when to switch songs is super important with Lucio, and good Lucios do this on like a constant basis, right? Like they're switching every 2 3 seconds, even if they only stay on the speed song for just like 2 seconds or like just a little bit to allow them to move the distance that they need
Hmm.
to.
And there's a lot of teams. There's like two things that I'll say on being skillful with switching songs is that one of them kind of overlaps with the amp it up. That's the hard thing about talking about Lucio is like both of his crossfade and his amp it up are like essentially the same idea. Like you have to master them two together, very similar to music in order to make a good song or to make a good game. Lucio really needs to utilize the amp it up properly because there's situations where running double support, which is pretty standard for pros to be playing or even higher skill characters to be playing, is Lucio's almost exclusively sitting on, you know, that speed song when the Mercy's alive, and maybe padding it when you go into the high damage scenario that you're trying to round a corner or penetrate through a specific area. And then when you use the amp it up, you're able to basically amp it up for just a second with the speed to kind of get that little extra distance to close the gap or to spread the gap between you and another target. And then you swap it to gain that huge boost heal. I learned that from friend of the show, Jark, who's on Andres' team with Deathblow. When they're playing, he taught me a couple tricks that way. And then he also was saying that the thing I was saying earlier, where you want to basically use your pad on your ultimate and the speed boosts like as a synonymous move almost. And then, yeah, you never underestimate just the basic 30% move speed. Like that is so fast.
Yeah,
like,
even 30% can give you a pretty big advantage. It means that you're at least running faster than the enemy. So eventually you'll close the gap with them. Let's talk about amp it up for a little bit, just to give you guys some numbers over here. When you're amped up, the crossfade for speed gives you 110 movement speed instead of your regular 30%. That means you are running at pretty much like a little more than double the speed that you normally run, which is pretty amazing, especially for the duration that you get out of it. It's what, like 3 seconds?
Especially with Zenyatta ulting on top of that. You can go 4 times as fast with that ridiculous ultimate.
Yeah. So amp it up with speed basically gives your team one of the strongest initiation tools that you can get. It basically allows your Reaper to get in there really fast. It allows your Pharah to fly into her backline at the speed of light. It allows your Reinhardt to run into the point and get into position really fast and let everyone else follow. Basically, it's one of the best ways that you can use to capitalize on the enemy team's mistakes, or when an enemy team is out of position, or when you're able to get a few picks. It allows you to get in there quick and deal with the situation. Also with healing, it gives you 40 healing per second rather than the regular 12. So that means that you can top off like 200 HP heroes in the
self-heal.
Yes, a self-heal too. So you can top yourself off in any 200 health hero like quite fast. And because you're doing it for the whole team, it can be super, super powerful. If your team just get hit by like a, I don't know, a big AoE spell or Pharah just rained on you and everyone's really, really hurt, it allows you to heal everyone really fast. Thing that other healers cannot do aside from maybe Zenyatta's ultimate. The last thing I want to say about Lucio regarding his strategy and amped up and all this is that bringing everything together, the fact that you have to be in the middle of the team to make everything really effective, the fact that you have one of the best initiation tools in the game, and the fact that you can sustain your team for a while with your healing makes Lucio super, super adept at being like the shot caller for your team. Being in the center allows you to see where enemies are coming from, where you might be getting flanked. It also allows you to see when enemies are overcommitted. And because you're the one who controls the initiation tool, you're kind of like in the best position to be like focus Reaper or focus Mercy or let's go in right now, right? As long as you have the right information from your team, let's say your Zarya is communicating when she has her ult and your Pharah is saying you too, all that stuff, you're kind of like in the best position to lead your team in this type of engagement, just because you allow them to move so fast. When you are ready to do it, and you know when your cooldowns are ready, you can be like, engaging now everybody on Mercy, and you can activate your speed boost. Everybody rushes them, you kill the Mercy. Then you switch to your healing song if needed to, or just retreat with the speed. But basically, you're kind of like the person that can bring everyone together the best. Or I found like Lucio's usually have a very good vantage point to be calling these decisions.
Yeah, I agree. Like Lucio is super awesome when you can actually like run into a map by yourself without a team and just kind of like figure out what areas are really niche for you. I feel like if you go into the mentality that you're going to play support when you go to King of the Hill, just like lock in Lucio and play him. Like you can get so much work done with Lucio. Even something that we've kind of neglected talking about has been just the unique ability that Lucio, Ana, and Zenyatta have at the table that Mercy relatively does not, is that he can provide a lot of position for your team, healing for the team, and he can actually output damage for the team. Like he can finish off targets, he can pressure targets, because he's able to do what he does as a support while he's pressuring at the same time. So it's really a unique situation. Like Zenyatta kind of does a little bit less of what Lucio can do as a group as far as like keeping your team alive, but he is more amped up on the defense. I feel like Lucio is like this perfect middle ground where he is always providing like a little bit of that weak damage or zoning with where he's shooting his guns, his shotgun blast. You don't want to get too close to him if you're by a wall. You can get that extra pressure and also heal your team just as well as maybe a Mercy can.
Yeah, that's actually super important, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because yes, out of all the supports, Lucio is the only one whose healing is not exclusive with his damage, right? Like you can damage
Yeah.
and heal simultaneously. Well, pretty much with any of the other supports, you do one or you do the other. With Ana, you have to shoot your allies if you want to heal him, or like directly like not aim at the enemy, or aim at the enemy and ignore your allies for a second. Same
Yeah.
with Mercy, you're either firing your gun or you're damage boosting or healing a person.
Zenyatta has a lot of micromanagement with his kit. Like you can
Zenyatta
effectively
too.
do the same thing, but it's a lot more difficult and it's only single target.
Yeah, and even with her ult, you give up all of your offensive capabilities to heal a ton for your enemy. But Lucio's ult even is not even like that. It provides a similar effect to Zenyatta's ult, but you're still able to attack, move, and boop people away while you're doing it. So you're right about
You're able
that.
to get a lot of eliminations with Lucio, like especially on King of the Hill maps. Like
Lucio,
Koth maps are so good for
yeah,
Lucio.
Lucio, you're right. Koth is really good for him because he can do both. He can heal and put pressure up, and he creates a lot of bullet fodder for your team, just like this constant spam, especially into doorways and stuff that the enemy team has to put up with. And
Hmm.
usually you can weaken enough somebody so that your Genji or your Tracer can come in and like sweep it by.
Yep. It's the difference between that last 5 health points and 0 is potentially that Lucio shot that hits them a lot of times.
Yep. The last thing we wanted to talk about Lucio are the matchups. Normally, when we do this going deep segment for our podcast, we want to give you a good analysis of the matchups that heroes are good or bad against. In this case, it's not a cop out, but it truly is how Lucio works. He just doesn't have matchups that he is super favored in or super weak against, because basically with Lucio, you're not looking to engage on one versus one, or you're not looking to get picks by yourself. Most of the time, you're trying to avoid engagements, and you're only going in with a teammate, or you're getting kills with somebody else. It's very unlikely that you're gonna be trying to look for picks by yourself. So, um,
But what we can do is we can talk about who pairs well with Lucio. Like if you're half in that situation where you're in a 2v2, like a lot of times, pretty much any tank is going to want a Lucio next to them, with maybe the exception of like a Winston jumping clear to the back line. Like that's probably not the greatest idea for Lucio, but like somebody that's a little bit more core in not flanking the enemy team, like a Reinhardt or a Zarya, will love having Lucio nearby.
Yeah, any hero that lacks mobility loves having a Lucio nearby. Like when I play as McCree, is really awesome having a Lucio because having that speed boost as McCree can sometimes really save your life, or can allow you to get into that position to snipe people down with your Peacekeeper. Same even with like Pharah. Lucio can be a godsend when you're using Pharah because when you're flying in the air, you're relatively slow. You're a
Yeah,
sitting duck, especially with for people.
30%'s a lot.
Yeah, for people with good aim, like it can be hard living the fair life up there. But with the Lucio speed
The
boost,
fair life is hard.
yeah, you can get through the sky so fast. So you love doing that with Lucio. Even with Genji, like just go watch one of Seagull's streams and how he pairs up the Lucios with his Genji is so amazing. He can go from literally one half of the map to the other with a Lucio
That
speed boost and just dashing.
Lucio. Oh
Yeah,
my
and just
gosh.
flank from any position. And it's really amazing watching him how he uses the speed boost to engage because he'll be kind of like chilling, waiting, and like flanking people. And as soon as he gets that speed boost, he just goes in like there was no tomorrow. He goes in, gets the kill, and then he's out of there like nothing had happened. Like true definition of a ninja, dude.
Genji goes deep. Like if you want to go deep into learning heroes, what's good that we're starting with Lucio, because Lucio helps anybody go deep.
Oh yes, pretty
It's
much
like
anyone.
I'm gonna send, something that I haven't got a chance to test yet that I would be curious to get an email about for you guys, just to be a little bit more interactive. Please try in a custom match using Diva's ultimate with the speed boost from Lucio and the rockets to send Diva's ultimate and see if it still boosts the speed that ultimate flies. Like even with your pilot outside of the suit that's blowing up. I'd be very curious to see how that interaction works out, especially with the new changes where the suit blows up faster.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'd be very
I haven't
interested
thought
to
of
see
that.
that.
Yeah, that new Diva ult with the 3-second timer. Oh my god, it's gotten me
And
so
it
many
doesn't
times
hurt her
already.
anymore.
Oh,
Like
Jesus.
Diva can stand in the middle of the team and do her heart emote and kill 5 people now.
I am so used to the 4 seconds that I've gotten killed probably like 4 or 5 times already by this ult because I thought I had enough time and I didn't.
It happened to me in the PTR like every game. I was like, oh, I have got like a whole nother. Oh. Yeah, it's usually how it goes out.
We have a question over here from Brian. He says, "What is the best Lucio spray?" And I think that is a very valid question and very important. Definitely the best one is Lucio's. If you want to be a pro, Lucio is the one they have to be sporting. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Like his cereal brand called Lucio's.
Lucio's.
Yeah.
I don't have that one yet, so I have the one where I switch between these two. It's the one where he has like the DJ table where he's kind of doing this.
Oh yeah, that
Like
one's
spins
good.
his finger off of the turntable, and then the other one is just where the frog is like holding his headphones. Because there's the reason I like that one is because all of the other sprays have like I've been really appreciating lately is the one where Anna's like a head without the face in it, and you can like put that on top of somebody else's spray, or like when you're playing McCree, you can get the wanted poster,
Oh yeah, those are
put
pretty
that
fun.
on top of something. So I like to put the frog behind like Anna's face or in the wanted poster to be like a troll. But yeah,
Okay, that's a valid one too. I'll take that one.
yes, we're doing it, boys.
All right. Anything else you want to say about Lucio before we close out our going deep discussion on him?
Did we cover his weak spots in enough depth? I don't know if we skipped over that or if I wasn't paying attention. I was paying attention to chat.
I think we discussed it a little bit. But sure, we can talk a little bit about the weak spots that Lucio has. Lucio can struggle a little bit as a single target healer. He's no Mercy or Zenyatta or even Anna that can do the explosion bomb and just one shot and pretty much top everyone off with that thing. he rather lacks in this department, especially if amp down is down. He's gonna struggle getting a tank that is really hurt up, like a hurt
Yeah.
Reinhardt or a hurt Roadhog. It's gonna take forever for Lucio to top this guy off. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes just having a single Lucio in your team being the only support can be quite hard on that Lucio because he will not be able to really keep up with burst damage. Like he can keep up with like small sustained damage very well, but once you start introducing characters like Widowmaker or McCree that can burst down people really hard.
Yeah, the bursty healers or attackers are
Yeah,
Lucio's
Mercy
worst
might
weakness.
have like a better chance in this. That's why you see a lot of like Mercy and Lucio being run simultaneously because they complement each other really well. They kind of cover their
And
weaknesses.
and more or less recently, you're going to be seeing, Mercy Zen or Lucio Zen because they're able to do a lot with Lucio or with Zenyatta since the changes. Lucio and Zenyatta are effectively inverse portions of the same ultimate. Like Lucio pads it, whereas Zenyatta basically keeps you alive to anything unless it's a burst kill. In like a split second. Like it's very hard to burst people down with Zen, so you can engage with a Lucio ultimate, and then when people start actually taking damage, then Zen can kick in and start healing people on the point if you're trying to do a point capture, or if you're trying to counter push or actually push on a Koth map. It's very effective. And then I guess introspectively, if you want to or inversely, if you want to switch Zenyatta out for Mercy, it's kind of like instead of having people stay alive, you let them die and then you resurrect them. So essentially you're going through the health bar 2 times one way or another, whether they're getting healed through it or they're getting resurrected after they're dead. It's essentially the same thing. One of them just gives you more mobility and or damage, aka Zenyatta, and the other will then, with Mercy, give you a little bit more utility with keeping you alive, plus the potential of resurrection and better positioning.
Another thing that Lucio is really weak with is you are not a flanker or you are not a solo hero. You your damage is rather low by yourself and you fire rather slowly like compared to other heroes, for example McCree, which is pretty much instant. So if you're just by yourself and you're trying to chase anybody down, especially somebody with high health, like forget of trying to solo a Reaper or a McCree or a Roadhog or Zarya. It's just not gonna happen by yourself. Even if
We're
you have
slapping them with sound wave pancakes and they don't hurt that much.
even if you have really good aim with Lucio, you fire slow enough that your opponent can react to your firing and basically kind of counteract you. And most heroes will be able to damage faster than you can damage them. So it is kind of a lost cause just playing Lucio by yourself. You definitely are very reliant on being with other people, and once you're with other people, you unlock Lucio's full potential. Not to say that you can't kill heroes by yourself. Like we've seen with the boops and stuff, if you outsmart your opponent and you're good with positioning and that sort of thing, you can actually wreck a lot of things with Lucio. And with all the bullet fodder that you create, you can actually get a lot of kills, like firing at choke points and that sort of thing. But you're just not the hero to pick if you want to go pick 1v1s. You know what I mean? If you want to do that, it might be better to pick Reaper or McCree. Or even Zenyatta or Ana, you know what I mean? Like you have a higher chance of getting kills with these guys than you do with Lucio.
Yep, and that wraps up our discussion. So thank you guys for voting for Lucio. We'll put another straw poll together the next time we want to do one of these in the upcoming weeks. It will be sooner rather than later, I can assure you that, especially if Andres can get one of his buddies on here or somebody that professionally plays the game. It would be nice to get them on here to talk about the hero choice. We're also getting this just in. The patch is now live on Xbox as of 8/10, July 22nd, July 21st for you all to play Ana. So Ana is now released to everyone to go play.
Woo! Grandma.
And you guys will enjoy her. Don't enjoy her too much because you have a lot of other changed heroes that are a lot more fun, in my opinion.
It's really funny
So,
because if you go into quick play right now, it's like 4 Ana teams, and you're like,
yep,
fine. I know
that's what it was
everyone's
like
so
on
practice.
PC.
Yeah, you understand why, but that's how it's going in quick match right now.
Yep. We also want to thank those of you who have been emailing us that haven't made it to the show, just inquiries about other stuff and checking up with us. One of our patrons, Eric S., is currently creating some cool iPhone backgrounds that maybe you on Patreon I did it. Here's a little teaser for those of you that are actually watching the Skype version. They're kind of like a cork board with a little bit of cuts in it with colors. It faded version of the brand. It looks really cool. Eric will get a couple more of those out, and we might be promoting those on our
Yeah, that looks
Patreon
really,
for you
really
guys
cool.
at the
Thanks for
wonderful-
sending those in, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. So if you want to send emails to the show, you want to interact with us, you maybe give us some suggestions for the show, you can always email us at omniclabpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet at us at omniclab. We also have 2 iTunes reviews from Signor Facebum from UK and Affiance from United States. And I'll read Senior Bumface his review. He says, in my spare time, I'm addicted to Overwatch. For times when I work nights, I found this a wonderful podcast to listen to fill the void. The hosts are likable, pretty adorable to boot. I don't know about that. And their passion for the game comes across strongly, and it will convince me to play and test other characters. I had an absolute zero interest in playing. I recommend this podcast to all of my Overwatch friends. Thank you so much, all the way over in the UK, for sending that iTunes review. We got it.
Thanks for the review. I don't know about the adorable though. Maybe you should come play with us one day, and we'll see if you call us adorable after I bring out my McCree.
We can convince you otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, come to our next game night, and we'll show you how adorable we are.
The other review that we got is from from Affiance, and he says, amazing Overwatch podcast. Been listening for a few weeks and is now definitely one of the best Overwatch podcasts out. Thanks, man. We really appreciate that. Glad you're liking it, and that really encourages us to keep going.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for those iTunes reviews. You guys can support the show by going to iTunes and leaving us a 5-star or less iTunes review if you deem it necessary. We will always consider your feedback, whether it's good or bad. We want to hear it. So leave them there, and it's the best way to do it for free. Thanks so much, you guys, as well, for supporting us on Patreon. We do not have any new patrons this week. This is the first time that we've actually not had patrons in the space of 7 days jump on the team. So we're not saying that in a negative way. It's just like overwhelming how many people have just been like, oh yeah, I'll throw a couple bucks. Oh yeah, I'll throw a couple bucks. We've just been blown away with the support with you guys, and we really appreciate it. And that's what we're going to spend this segment to do. We have a couple more helpful links for you to go check out. The Cynical Nerds in our content creators shout out section. Yet again, Max is packing it down with how to play Ana Amari effectively in his YouTube channel. Jeff Kaplan jumping around in the forums talking about how the changes for overtime were considered. And there's a brand spanking new Ana 2.0 comic where it features not only Ana, but Reaper and Soldier 76. And this comic is off the chain. It's one of my favorite ones. I just watched or read it today.
Ooh, I haven't read this one. I know what I'm going to do right after the show.
And then our last feature person is Force Gaming. He had some really great thoughts on the Zenyatta changes that I was heavily relying on for a lot of my information this week. And I just want to shout him out because I really appreciate all the work he does on his channel. If you guys would like to join us over on the team and join the Omnic Lab concocting stuff every day in our Discord server, you can go to discord.me/Omnic Lab and join the crew that's over there. We got a lot of great discussions over there, some solid admins, and we have the Winston bot and the May bot kind of helping us out. So if you guys want to go say hey to Winston and give him a piece of your mind, you can come jump over there.
In that little same vein, before we move on, I really want to give a big shout out to RC Crispy. That guy has been super, super amazing in our Discord channel, just helping out. And he's been doing it all of his own free will. He helps out set up the bots. He has done a ton of like modding on the Discord channel. He's helping us out with the stream. So thanks a lot, man. We really appreciate that you're just going out of your way to do all these things. It's definitely not going unnoticed. Yeah, just thank you.
Thank you so much. You also can see, if you're watching live or on the recording, we have our sweet merch, and it just came in for me. This is our V-neck in dark navy blue, and it fits great. I can't wait to promote my show to people that can't even speak English in Japan with this, and it's going to be awesome. Also, if you guys want to check us out on YouTube, we are getting really close to the 100 subscribers button, and this is not a shameless plug. This is, if we get 100 subs, we get a very basic URL that we can change. So we can actually say youtube.com/channel/Omnic Lab instead of this miscellaneous assortment of numbers and letters that are case sensitive. So if you want to help us out there, just throw us a subscription and we can potentially get that. So you can also check out that as well as our sweet merch over on our website. Or if you want to type it in your URL, it is shop.spreadshirt.com/Omnic Lab. You can always check our show notes over at the website, omniclab.com or omniclab.co, and you can find the extended show notes of all of the details we talked about in the show on our Google Drive on that website. That being said, you can also find Andres over in the interwebs where?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You can also find me streaming Overwatch in this same channel. We haven't streamed for a little bit just because there's been a lot of changes with the team roster. Basically, a lot of our guys had to, go back to real life responsibilities, and it's really hard to keep up with, 6 people. So for now, we're disbanded and kind of like going on our own, seeing how it goes. I'm focusing a lot on competitive, so especially now that a lot of things have been selling it, I'll be streaming a lot more of my solo queues or random 3 or 4 man queues. I've been trying to stay away from the 6 queues just because it gets a little bit too serious when you're playing 6v6.
Yeah,
and,
it really does.
You can also find me talking Hearthstone on my other podcast, Coin Concede. If you guys are interested in hearing about the competitive scene and some strategies on Hearthstone, make sure to check us out over there.
You can also find me over at Twitter and on Instagram at twitter.com and instagram.com/notrob. You can find my online portfolio and Facebook stuff over at facebook.com/notrobmedia. And you can also find me on my Hearthstone podcast at velinschosen.com. We're also in iTunes and Google Play and all of that jazz. We talk budget stuff tomorrow, and hopefully that episode will go up by Sunday. We're talking hunter decks tomorrow, hybrid and mid-range, and we're even going to discuss basically going back to the basics and talking like card advantage, mulligan, all that jazz tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. So go check that out. That's it from us in the lab. I can't wait to see you guys again. This is my last podcast in the States for Omnic Lab. So I will see you guys soon. And hopefully, if I can't make it in 2 weeks with our week sabbatical, I will send Andres a soundbite of me just visiting, and he can potentially edit it together, and then I can post the show, hopefully from a pocket Wi-Fi that I can get in my first couple days there. But we'll see. The internet setup is going to be pretty nuts from what it sounds like.
We'll make it work. We'll let you guys hear how Rob makes it over there.
Yeah, there's no sense in trying to tell you guys what we don't know. So we'll get there. We'll kind of keep you informed. Just follow us on all of our medias. And we'll see you next week. Don't be a lab rat. Be a scientist. Adios, folks. See you again soon.
I have nothing more to teach you. The rest